province in the ALR. This is not a new thing. I am suggesting, and Mr. Van Kerkhoff, who values farmland, he owns more of it than anybody else in the room, appreciates the functionality of the ALR. He's willing to find more land and put it in the ALR. So I just wanted to clarify those points. Oh, and VHA has put in writing, as I believe First Nations have, their support for the project, and it's significant. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Marlene Todd, and I live at 3978 Blue Ridge Place. I'll make this very short. I strongly object to the land on the ALR being used for this purpose. I am very concerned about the disappearance of our agricultural land. Savage has said that it places a high value on agricultural land and becoming more self-sufficient in feeding ourselves. So even if this site has potential, I think we need to be very concerned, about losing this land, and Saturn should demonstrate that it's committed to saving agricultural land by turning down this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor, Council, my name is Robert Boyd, 4173 Linfield Crescent. I was motivated to come to this meeting because I was at the previous meeting to deal with another issue, and as an earlier speaker mentioned, what I felt was that I was concerned about the process that took place at that meeting. I felt that rather than dealing with the opportunity to put this land forward for consideration, the decisions had been made beforehand. That there wasn't listening happening, there was decisions that had been made. And I'm grateful that tonight many people have spoken in many different ways. I believe the process tonight is a lot better. I feel that decisions about, I would say that I'm a supporter of the Agricultural Land Reserve, Official Community Plan, urban containment, but this resolution, as I understand it tonight, leaves the opportunity for those issues to be dealt with if this property is able to be part of one of the options to be considered. So I feel that the risk to all of us as taxpayers, and not just myself, some of my children own property in Saanich, and I have grandchildren here. They will be the ones that are paying. This is a huge, probably the largest tax increase that Saanich residents are going to deal with related to wastewater management. And to have a piece of property put forward and excluded without the opportunity to give it consideration with all the others, to me, does not make sense for my generation or my grandchildren's generation. There have been many people spoken very well about reasons why this is not an appropriate site, and I'm not going to speak to that, or for it, for that matter. I just think that the decision tonight should be to not put the greater Victoria community at risk of losing an opportunity to consider a property that does have, at least in some people's mind, merit. So I would request that you vote tonight in support of this resolution to put this property forward for future consideration. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Are there any of the members of the public that wish to speak? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Dixon. I live at 4059 Monarch Place. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to agenda item C1 and also inclusive of C3. Your Worship, Council, it would seem an appropriate time and an opportunity for Council to reconsider the consideration of the Watka site proposal before you tonight. As you know, a committee of volunteers have been actively engaged with the CRD for the last 10.5 weeks, working on a new model of public consultation that is meaningful and a matter of record. Many of you are aware of the role the East Side Advisory Committee plays in the new process moving forward. For Council to vote against the inclusion of information put forward would appear to be in conflict with and in contrast to the findings of the recent public advisory report put forward to the Select Committee. If Council votes this down a second time, you will be responsible for wasting valuable time that needs to be used in the most effective manner and in the best interest of the region at this critical point in time of decision-making. I believe in voting support of the review keeps the momentum moving forward towards solutions and a transparent process. So I would support that you move this site forward to the East Side Select Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mehdi Najari, 1005 Leeds Place. I am going to just talk about the item number C2 and C3, which is the sewage treatment process with CRD. I have a lot of concern with what's happening there. This, we had about 10 years in the latest attempt to have a sewage treatment. It is a 10-year, since 2005, we are working at it. And it's not going anywhere because the staff consistently refuse to look at all options in an open way. We have, and right now the process that is going on right now is the so-called public consultation. They design a process to give appearance of public participation without real meaningful public participation. And then we are going to spend another millions of dollars more and get to another dead end. $60 million have spent, we have nothing to show for, nothing. And I thought when we went, I went to the meeting of the one-day workshop of May 31st. They told us you have to select site. We said we cannot select site without knowing what kind of system you are going to use and what is the footprint of the plant that you are going to have. Because it depends on the footprint, we can eliminate site or we cannot. So we cannot put the cart in front of the horse. No, that's the way. We never got a reasonable answer, not even an answer. I went back to see what's happened in the history because this wasn't an issue that I was really paying attention too much to it. And I see that our councillor, Vic Derman, consistently, 2006, 2007, 2008, 9, 10, 11, in every meeting almost, talk about let's open up, let's look at all the options, and they refuse. Every time they vote him down. Here I want to read some of the articles to remind you what's happened. November 29, 2007, quote, I have had concern for quite a long period now about whether we were adequately assessing our options, Councillor Derman. And then in the same article, there is this gem. View Royal Mayor Graham Hill said, it doesn't make sense to get into detailed plant site selection when there is uncertainty surrounding what type of sewage treatment work for best. So the same concern that we have today, Mayor Graham raised in 2007, and still they come with the process to do the same, get the same result. How much money do we have to waste? Another article, June 24, 2010. Mayor Desjardins said, we had a number of concerns, but they fell on deaf ears. Derman replied, very deaf ears. Another article, May 2008. It says, there is a very good chance that a different direction might have brought a better financial outcome and a better environmental outcome. Derman said after receiving a report, but still they refuse to look at other options. The last one I want to quote you here is this. Is an article for March 22nd, 2009. When the planner of Greater Victoria Massive Sewage Treatment Project needed help, they turned to a man named Bruce Jank. The Ontario engineer was hired in 2006 as a steady set of outside eyes to help Capital Regional District make sense of a BC government order to stop dumping waste into the ocean. He brought with him decades of experience in sewage treatment, including a stint as a director of Environment Canada Wastewater Technology Centre, where government scientists research how to draw resources from waste. This is the key paragraph, the last paragraph. But there was a problem. According to Jank, the CRD wouldn't listen to what he had to say. A lot of stuff I suggested they do, they ignored. Jank told Times columnists, how much more we have to do this? How much more money do we have to spend? If you continue this, you are putting a lot of senior citizens that are house rich and cash poor out of their house because they cannot continue to pay more and more and more and getting nothing. Please, please, show your concern. Stop this charade that is going on in the name of public participation. Let's put all the options on the table and let's the proponent of the distributed system come with their proposal, not the CRD staff that oppose distributed system. They put what kind of distributed system we should look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillor. My name is Janet Lubick and I live at 4902 Maxine Lane. And I think this should go forwarded to the professionals. I was raised on a farm. Our farm lived in our family from 1871 to 2001. And there is much farmland that is not arable. And I do not think this land is particularly arable. I have gone and looked at it. And with waste, monetary waste, I heard it's 100 million we have wasted. And all we have to show for it is a $17 million piece of property on Esquimalt Road that we may get $8 million for. We're paying $26,000 a month for Cetera office space. We're paying the professionals there. Don't know what that is. We have to move forward. We have to look outside the box, and this property should go forward for evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Art Rickerson. You may have seen my letters to the editor. You probably don't enjoy them. But I live on 1980 West Burnside. In my front yard, if it should occur, I will have a sewage treatment plant owned by Ellen Van Kerkhove. I've known him for 35 years. Exactly across the road from his property is called Hilltop Nurseries. They have greenhouses that grow poinsettias. They have probably several acres of greenhouses there. We're all, in my neighborhood, we're all on wells. Our wells are drying out. Every second morning I look out, I look over View Royal, because View Royal is my boundary, and I see Eagle View School watering thousands of dollars worth of water 5:30 in the morning. You are paying for it. I'm not, because I'm on a well, 20 gallons a minute, not bad. All my neighbors, we have lived in the area for over 35 years, and I guess I'm just surprised that you aren't kind of moving forward on at least allowing the democratic process. It won't happen probably anyway because they're too far from the pipes. It's going to be too expensive, and if I live to be 100, I don't expect to see a tertiary plant in my neighborhood anyway, but it would be nice. I don't want a secondary plant across the road. The big thing you're going to see in a year or two, forest fires. Every tree from my area, Vander Kirchhoff's area, Thetis Lake, Elk Lake. I got a feeling we're gonna lose some because the groundwater is dried up. If you did have a sewage treatment plant there, put the water back in the ground, I think we might have a chance. But we spent $100 million already, so let's go another 6 years and spend another $100 million, and I'll move. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Clapping, please. Appreciate it. Next speaker, please.
My name's Bill Williamson. I live at 3225 Eldon Place. I just wish to speak in support of putting this forward because I think making the decision against at this point is far too early. You will have, as a previous speaker has said, you as a council will have several points down the road at which to make a decision and vote no, as the council in Esquimalt so ably pointed out. So I vote, if I had a vote, would be in favor of putting this forward and allowing the engineers and experts to evaluate it. And then you can make a decision. Today is the wrong time to vote no.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers that would like to speak on these topics?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Catherine Whitworth, and I reside at 4548 Viewmont Avenue. As I previously stated on June 22nd, I am opposed to sending the Walkus Way property to the CRD Eastside Sewage Committee. In my opinion, due process did take place. There was the CRD open houses, there was the workshops, there's the web polls, and the June 22nd council meeting. Saanich has prided itself on being one of the handful of municipalities in the province that has an urban containment boundary within its boundaries. This planning tool was implemented in the early 1960s, and it has served our citizens well for the past 50 years. Another administrative planning tool is the Agricultural Land Commission, and it was set up in the 1970s and has undergone a recent revamping, not necessarily for the better, but it still keeps the south area of the province intact. These tools, along with Saanich official community plan, must be the forefront for any decision to make this evening. You must look beyond the simple question, is this property technically feasible? What you must look at is what happens in the beyond. That is council prepared to send this property to the ALC to have it excluded? Is council prepared to have the referendum to open up the urban containment boundary? What will happen should this referendum fail? Is council prepared to open up the sewer service area? Are you prepared to rezone? And yes, this property will need to be rezoned for an industrial use, and I disagree wholeheartedly with Ray Parks. Is council saying that you don't support farming and food security? And lastly, but most of all, is council prepared to open up the floodgates that all the other landowners in rural Saanich who wish to develop their properties? I would like to quote from a post on Mayor Atwell's Mayor of Saanich Facebook page from Friday, July the 16th. It is written by a person named Lori Ann. Quote, putting a sewage treatment facility on ALR land is going to make Vander Kirchhoff a ton of profit rather. If this land can be taken out of the ALR for this industrial purpose, then I should be allowed to take out my 3 acres out and develop it all, if like all the half-acre residential properties that surround me around the interurban Camosun area. I am about 1 kilometer from the proposed as the crow flies. I think it's a great location for a sewage plant, but be fair to other landloaders in the area. If we have to put up with this industrial development, let us also develop our ALR land. As I said, the floodgates are waiting to burst open. As past president of the Royal Oak Community Association, I can tell you that at least 3 such property owners in Royal Oak will be all over this should you decide to open the floodgates. It is prime importance to maintain the urban containment boundary even if it means not to install a sewage treatment plant on this site. I do not buy the argument that Central Saanich has one on the ALR land, so we should too. Having been a community advocate for nearly 20 years, Saanich has always prided itself in making decisions not based on what others have, but in the context of that individual parcel of land. The East Side Committee has posted their choices online. Saanich sits on this committee and therefore should uphold and support the choices that have already been democratically made to move forward. With all due respect, I do wish again to say I believe Mayor Atwell and Councillor Haynes are in a conflict of interest. They received $10,000 and $5,000 respectively for Mr. Vander Kerkhoff from the last year's election, and I did receive a written opinion from a lawyer regarding this. When you enter this chamber, you are to have an open mind and listen to arguments for and against. Their participation on the June 22nd from the start was to lobby for this site to be included. In closing, I urge Council to uphold your June 22nd decision to not forward this proposal to CRD. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Whitworth, I'd like to address your comments briefly because you've made them twice. There are no financial decisions being made at this meeting or at the previous meeting.
I didn't
Just
talk
for the
about
record.
any financial.
Next speaker, please.
Mayor and Council, Peter Ferguson, 3960 Quadra. You'll remember me from making the presentation to you. I'm the engineer that did look at the Watkisway site. I've really enjoyed listening to the debate tonight. I'm not going to get into a technical discussion in my presentation right now, but these are healthy comments. These are the things we all need to consider. I've been working at consulting engineering specifically with water and wastewater sites for over 40 years. And I want the opportunity to bring this forward because when I studied it, it made a lot of sense to me. It made a lot of sense that this is a triple bottom line project that needs to be considered. It needs to be judged on its own merit, and it needs to be considered if it can stand up to other potential sites. Obviously, I believe strongly it will. I'd like the opportunity to bring that forward. I'd like to be able to challenge the technical minds in the CRD to make sure that this site would be judged equally with other sites. And I make a commitment to you that I'll make sure that they do their job if you give me the opportunity to do mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Paul Whitworth, and I reside at 4548 Viewmont Avenue. I would say the proposal to consider the Watkisway land as a sewage treatment plant is the most ill-conceived idea I've seen in all my years of attending council meetings, and anyone who has ever served on for or the executives of the local community associations, of which Saanich has 17, would know instinctively the unworkability of this proposal and the inherent dangers that it does present. To establish a sewage treatment plant in this location would require 1, removing the land from the agricultural land reserve, 2, moving the urban containment boundary so to include this land, and 3, to have the land rezoned from the agricultural use it has to a industrial use initially, and then subdividing the land to allow the parcel for the sewage treatment plant to be carved off. Since such land use is the bailiwick of the landowner, there would be no way of ensuring that the land would be returned to its other purpose. It would now be subdividable, rezonable for urban use, in another word. Considering the difficulties that are already being experienced with the access to and from the western part of Victoria, its western approaches, it would be unwise to allow further urbanization to take place in this part of the land. You're already dealing with the Mackenzie Road clog. Well, you've got the potential now to add more to it. You've got a good-sized parcel of land. That's a lot of houses. That's even some multi-family use, condominiums and townhouses. Such developments do not exist in a bubble. As has been said by a previous speaker, there are plenty of landowners, and there are 3 in my own neighborhood, who wish to do a similar development. And they would apply for their own properties, and will immediately come to Saanich and say to you, you did it for them, you can do it for me. And how do you tell them that you can't? Okay. So, as I say, once you've let the genie out of the bottle, there's no way of getting it back in. You wish your legacy to be, we turn Saanich into Surrey. It's been said the land is not being used for farming. It's time to think outside of the box or outside of the subdivision. Even if the land sits there fallow, I'm sure that you would get much more conversion of carbon dioxide into oxygen than you would from a condominium. And in conclusion, I would say it's a yes, you can do all the consideration you like, but you never know what's going to happen, and once it's gone wrong, it cannot be put right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward. Calling for a second time, any members of the public who wish to speak? Calling for a third time? Okay, we'll call that the end of the public input period. Thank you so much for everyone that spoke. We heard from a large number of speakers on this topic, these topics, and we'll move on now to the resolutions for adoption. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This first item on the agenda is the Watkisway sewage treatment strategy. This was brought forward by Mayor Atwell in accordance with Section 9 of the Council Procedure Bylaw. Mayor Atwell is requesting that Council reconsider the following resolution defeated at the June 22nd Council meeting. The motion that was defeated was that the Watkisway site be considered as a candidate for the pending Capital Regional District CRD wastewater management treatment project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Before we begin, I think I'd like to read from the memo that's in the agenda, just sort of set out where we are, and then I'll make a few comments, and then I'll open it up to Council for discussion. So on July 16th, I wrote this. On June 22nd, 2015, Council heard from Mr. Ray Parks, who appeared as a delegation to promote a privately owned site in Saanich on Watkisway as a potential solution for treating the region's sewage. Council defeated a resolution by a narrow 5-4 vote and did not forward this site to the Capital Regional District's East Side Wastewater and Resource Recovery Select Committee for further consideration. After an examination of the public reaction to the decision from Saanich residents and indeed from citizens across the region, I have elected to bring this decision back to Council for reconsideration. A successful vote would allow this site to be forwarded to the CRD for site feasibility and further technical analysis. Under current consideration by the CRD are sites that have been identified as feasible for both centralized and decentralized plants. Whether or not Watkisway is desirable as a single site for treating the region's sewage as originally proposed, it may constitute a technically feasible candidate site for a decentralized system. Geographically, the Watkisway site is in close proximity to the sewer main that runs down Burnside Road from Marigold Pump Station, and is also in proximity to the newly upgraded Craigflower Pump Station. Could the site treat wastewater from the West Shore and most of Saanich and provide for innovative resource recovery at this location? We will only come to understand this after a suitable study that is already planned for other sites currently under consideration by the CRD. The impact of the sewage project to the region will be immense, no matter the final configuration that is chosen, and the environmental, social, and financial potential of this site relate directly to agriculture and food security, greenhouses on ALR land, clean energy for resource recovery of solid waste, gasification, and the nearby hospital, and the recharging of the aquifer, reclaimed water. Past objections to the site have largely been concerned with Saanich's official community plan and urban containment boundary, and the need for approval by the Agricultural Land Commission. As such, the Council decision not to forward this site has preempted any technical review for this site and has precluded the public from having a democratic voice heard, as does the public who must weigh in on decisions that change the OCP and the UCB. With the Saanich Peninsula Wastewater Treatment Plant itself on former ALR land, Precedent for using non-producing AOL land has already been set. It is therefore on this basis and others that may come forward, the council will have an opportunity to reconsider its decision from June 22nd. And that's what we'll do tonight. So it's the mayor's prerogative to be able to bring decisions back to council, and there have been a number of decisions during the last 6 months that I have agreed with or I've voted down, but they have gone forward as the will of council. But given the feedback in the media and from the public, from letters that have come to us, both for and against, I believe that this is a decision that should be reconsidered and do so at this time. I was further motivated by the comments that were put forth in the minutes. And while the minutes are correct, I think there are a number of problems with some comments that come from council in the minutes, and I'll just go through a couple of these. And I won't identify councillors by name, I'll just list these things. One comment stated that the proposed site has already been considered by the CRD as a potential site for a treatment plant, and it was deemed not technically feasible. Now, I looked into this, and the site that was looked at before by the CRD was 1947 Burnside Road, not Watkins Way. It was a separate site, but was in a similar location. And when the CRD looked at it, it was looked at in the form of a memo that came from one of the CRD engineers when this was brought forward by one of the directors at the table. And the result of that report was not to say that it was not technically feasible.